Hello, everyone, and happy Veterans Day. Thank you for tuning in to our online Veterans Day Assembly. I am Dr. Cadiz, Principal, Punxsutawney Elementary School. This is Mrs. Sheena Smelko, Assistant Principal, Punxsutawney Elementary School. We want to welcome you to our virtual assembly. We are very sorry that we could not have our guests here with us to celebrate like we have in years past, but we want to make sure everybody is safe, and we also want to make sure that we show you how appreciative we are for all that you've done. So we came up with this idea to have an online Veterans Day Assembly. The teachers and students worked very hard to put it together for you, and we hope you enjoy it. We want to say thank you so much for all you've done, all your sacrifices, and all the great things you achieved serving in our armed forces. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice holiday.
Thank you to our veterans for all that you've done, and we hope that you enjoy what our students have put together for you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Enjoy.
you. Happy Veterans Day.
We are going to fun. We are free to go to school. We are free to say da-da-da.
like to share with you the history of Veterans Day. In 1921, an unknown American soldier was buried on the Virginia hillside overlooking the Potomac River in the city of Washington, D.C. Similar ceremonies occurred in England and in France, where an unknown soldier was buried in each nation's highest place of honor. These memorials took place on November 11th, celebrating the end of World War I, at 11 a.m. on November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. This day became known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day officially received its name in America in 1926 and became a national holiday in 1938. In 1954, President Eisenhower signed a bill proclaiming November 11th as Veterans Day. He called upon Americans everywhere to honor all those who have served in America in all wars.
Veterans Day is a day for remembering those who have served our country in the armed forces, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. As we remember those who have served our country, we also think of those who are serving our country now, both here in the United States and in other countries.
I would like to direct your attention to our butterfly display behind us. Sixth grade students created this project to show our respect and honor for those men and women who served in the United States military. A project similar to this was initiated in Lexington, South Carolina. Children fashioned close to 6,000 butterflies to honor fallen soldiers from Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. The butterfly display is now displayed at the Veterans of Foreign Wars National Headquarters in Lexington, South Carolina. It is our hope that our Remembrance Branch will create a lifelong habit of saying thank you to our veterans. We would now like to recite a poem entitled Thank a Veteran for Your Freedom, written by J.O. Sauger.
It was a veteran, not a reporter, who guaranteed freedom of the press.
It was a veteran, not a poet, who guaranteed freedom of speech.
It was a veteran, not a campus organizer, who guaranteed freedom to demonstrate.
It was a veteran, not a minister, who guaranteed freedom to worship.
It was a veteran, not a salesman, who guaranteed freedom to own property.
It was a veteran, not a travel agent, who guaranteed freedom to travel.
It was a veteran, not a politician who guaranteed freedom to vote.
It is a veteran who salutes the flag, risks it all for the flag, and who is buried beneath the flag.
Hanson's class from a small town in the Midwest has taken a trip to Washington, D.C. Today's activity is to visit the monuments dedicated to those who served our country by serving in the American Armed Forces. We join up with them at the National Mall, not far from the White House.
Okay, everyone, I know I've said this before, but it's very important that you keep track of the body you've been assigned. This is a big place, and I don't want anyone wandering off on their own. I really need everyone to stay with the group. Got it?
Got it, Mr. Hanson. Seth, I got my eyes on you. Right back at you, buddy.
I sure hope you two are being sincere. I assure you that no one would be laughing and someone got spared from the group. Okay, let's get started. We will be visiting a number of servicemen and women today. As we make stops at each moment in memorial, I know you will cause him or her to have a good impression of views from the Midwest by your attendance.
Good morning, everyone. I am Lieutenant Mark Masters. I currently serve in the Army. I will be telling you about the Korean War Memorial. Today, does anyone know when the Korean War took place?
Wasn't it after World War II?
You are correct, sir. The Korean War started in 1950 and lasted for 3 years. What you see before you are 19 stainless steel figures wearing the ponchos that armed service members were often seen wearing during that war.
Wow, they look so real.
I often hear that comment. You can see that the group is on patrol with each figure holding some sort of weapon, ready to take action at a moment's notice.
The walls here are really cool too. If you look at them at different angles, you can see battle scenes.
Yes, as you can see, this memorial contains walls of granite on each side, with images of troops moving by land, by air, and by sea, sandblasted onto their surface.
Ooh, check that out. The walls that has words etched into it. Freedom is not free. Wow, that really makes me think.
And it should. Everyone take about 10 minutes to look around the memorial. Then we will move on to another one.
About 15 minutes later, Mr. Hanson's class arrived at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Students, allow me to introduce you to Staff Sergeant Jason Leeds from the U.S. Marine Corps.
Thank you, sir. Welcome to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. This memorial honors the members of the United States Armed Forces who fought in the Vietnam War. This memorial sees about 3 million visitors each year. I want to ask you a question. How many of you have seen the moving wall?
The moving wall?
I saw it with my grandpa a few years ago. He is a Vietnam veteran.
The next time you see your grandpa, tell him that I say thank you for his service to our country.
I will. I was pretty young that time I saw the moving wall with him. I just remember him looking in his book for the names of some of the soldiers he fought beside who died in the war. Then he walked to the wall and found their names on it.
Did he do what that gentleman over there is doing? Did he take the side of a pencil and place a piece of paper against the wall and then rub the paper with the pencil so his comrade's name appeared on the paper?
You know, I think he did. I remember that I never heard him cry, but when I looked up at him to ask him a question, I realized that he had some tears running down his face.
I suppose he was thinking of his friends who died in the war.
I see many people do that here every day, men and women, young and old. After all, some may have lost their high school sweetheart in the war. Some may have lost their husband, their father, or even a grandfather they never knew. I often find myself watching these folks etching a name, and I wonder what their story is. Everyone has a story of their own.
Sergeant Reed, how many names are on these two walls?
That's a very good question, sir. Each wall is 246 feet long, and there are a total of 58,000 names of service members who either perished in the war or missing in action.
58,000? Wow, that's a lot of people who just died. Just think that's on our side.
Yes, it's a sad fact that war results in many casualties.
What's that statue over there?
Go ahead and walk over there to check it out more closely when we finish talking here. I think it's a very interesting statue. It is called the Vietnam Women's Memorial. It honors the 265,000 women who risked their lives or to care for wounded and dying soldiers during the war. You'll see two women at the side of an enemy soldier. One is aiding the soldier while the other one appears to be looking up and praying.
Thank you so much for your time, Sergeant Reed. We have learned a lot from you today. Students, look around, but remember to stay with your buddy. Let's meet over by the Vietnam Women's Memorial in 15 minutes. After visiting the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, they headed over to the World War II Memorial near the center of the National Mall. Wow, this memorial is huge. Welcome to the World War II Memorial. I am Admiral Thames, and this is Cadet Amy Tate. Cadet Tate is currently a cadet U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. She is assisting me as I meet with school groups like yours this week.
Hi there. I remember that I was about your age when I visited Washington, D.C. for the first time. The memorial you see here today did not exist when the first time I came to Washington, D.C. It was completed in 2004.
This memorial honors the 16 million men and women who served in World War II as members of the Army Armed Forces.
16 million?
Yes, 16 million Americans served our country in the World War. Does anyone have any idea how many Americans died in World War II?
8 million?
Fortunately, that's too high. Any other guesses?
2 million?
Fortunately, that number is too high as well. 400,000 Americans died in protect our freedom and the freedom of others
throughout the world in that triple world war.
There's a great deal of symbolism in the structures you see around you today. I want to share the means of the things you are looking at. What is the first thing you see when you look all around?
Lots of big, thick green columns.
Yes, that's the first thing I noticed too. There are 56 of these large granite columns. Do you agree that they just seem to connect everything together?
Yes, they sure do.
Well, that's intentional. They symbolize the unity of the 48 states and the 7 federal territories in the District of Columbia that America was made of at this time in history, the early 1940s.
So what are those two huge structures?
Would you believe it if I told you that they are 43 feet tall? One symbolizes our victory on the Atlantic front and the other symbolizes our victory on the Pacific front.
Quick quiz. Who knows what Cadet Kate means when she mentioned the Atlantic front and the Pacific front?
I remember this from watching war movies with my grandpa. The Atlantic front refers to the war in around Europe. Yeah, and I know this from watching the play South Pacific. The Pacific front refers to the war around Japan and Southeast Asia.
Good job. I must admit, I wish you would have said that you remember learning it in school, but I have to agree that I've learned a lot by watching TV, movies, and plays, and reading history facts. What else do you have to share with us today, Admiral James and Admiral Cadet? Pointing hard. Does everyone see that wall of stars over there? That is called the Freedom Wall. The 4,048 stars you see there are tribute to the many American lives lost in the terrible World War.
Go ahead and look around for a while now. You will also see battle names and military camp signs displayed throughout this monument.
Is there a memorial dedicated to World War I in Washington, D.C.?
As a matter of fact, there is not a World War I memorial here. There is an Punxsutawney museum dedicated to that war, but it is located in Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you very much for your time today, Admiral Ames and Cadet Tate. Students, take some time and look around. And this monument is really big, so be sure to keep track of your buddy. Let's meet back here in 20 minutes. Then we'll stop and have lunch before we head over to Arlington National City this afternoon.
After lunch, Mr. Hansen and his class board the bus and Mr. Smith, the bus driver, takes them to Arlington National Cemetery. The students step off the bus and enter the bustling grounds. Just inside the gate, they are greeted by Colonel Summers, Major Geary, and Private Parks.
Welcome to Arlington National Cemetery. I am Colonel Richard Summers, and it is my honor and privilege to show you this national shrine that honors those who have so bravely served in our nation and protected our freedom.
I am honored to be with you today as well as share this final resting place for more than 400,000 active duty service members, veterans, and their families. I'm Major Stephanie Garrett. Did you say 400,000? Whoa, this place must be enormous. Yes, it is quite large, 624 acres large in fact. At its present size, however, we are quickly running out of room. Private Parks, why don't you share a little about why that's the case?
Certainly, I'll first introduce myself. I'm Private Lance Parks, and I'm stationed here at Arlington National Cemetery. You see, I assist in preparing for the funeral services which take place here each day.
Is that what is going on over there?
Yes, it is. We certainly average 27 to 30 funeral services here each day, roughly 7,000 a year.
7,000 every year. That means that just the past 10 years there have been 70,000 more people buried here.
You are correct. Now you understand why we are quickly running out of room. Has anyone heard of the Millennium Project here at Arlington National Cemetery? The Millennium Project includes plans to acquire more land so that the cemetery can be expanded to meet the continuing demand of service members to be buried here into the future. Over the next few years, we will be adding 27,000 more burial plots to Arlington.
But if you are averaging 7,000 burials a year, that will only last you 3 extra years.
You are correct. A longer-term solution needs to be considered if the cemetery is to continue to offer burial here to its servicemen, women, and their families.
Does anyone know the history of Arlington National Cemetery?
It was founded during the Civil War.
Correct. Does anyone know the families that once lived there?
I can't remember his name, but the leader of the South's army, he and his family lived here, right?
You mean the Confederate Army, right, Carrie?
Yeah, that's it.
I am impressed with all the information this group already knows. Yes, General Robert E. Lee and his family left this property at the onset of the Civil War. The history actually goes a bit further back than even that. Though, why don't you share it with these students, Major Gary?
Certainly. This is actually land that once belonged to the adopted grandson of George Washington. His name is George Washington Park Sustis. In 1857, so shortly before the Civil War, he willed the land to his daughter, Mary Anna, and her husband, Robert E. Lee. Once General Lee and his family left the property at the start of the Civil War, federal troops made use of the land as a camp and as headquarters. Wow, I had no idea. Just think, we're standing on the ground that was once a Civil War battlefield.
You are indeed. I know you all are from the Midwest, but when you think about it, much of the land along the eastern coast of the United States once saw a defeat of soldiers ready to do battle against fellow Americans like the soldiers of today. These young men fought to protect what they believed to be right.
In 1864, the United States government purchased this property and set aside 200 acres to be used as a national cemetery. The first burial took place on May 13, 1864. By the end of the Civil War, just a year later, thousands of soldiers and former slaves have been buried.
I have another question for you now. How many of you have heard of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? We are going to make our way over there in a few moments to watch the changing of the guards. I've got an interesting fact to share with you. You all raised your hand when I asked how many have heard of it. Actually, the tomb has never been officially named.
That's fascinating. Actually, I think it's kind of fitting that way, don't you?
I agree with you, Seth. After all, it was delighted to remember all the soldiers who were killed but whose bodies were never able to be identified.
That's right, young man. Many people think the Tomb of the Unknown holds bodies of just one soldier. Once we walk over there, however, you will see there are actually tombs of several soldiers there. The soldiers were buried to represent the unknown from World War I, World War II, and the Korean War.
For a while, there was a soldier buried there from the Vietnam War, too, wasn't there?
You are correct. However, in May 1998, the body was exhumed for DNA testing. Professionals were able to identify it as Air Force First Lieutenant Marshal Joseph Lane, who was shot down in combat of 1972. His remains were given to his family for private burial elsewhere. Since then, the crypt has remained empty. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, then let's head over to the Tomb of the Unknown. You have shown that you are a very attentive and respectful group, so I'm sure I don't need to tell you this, but I will anyway. The changing of the guard is a very deliberate event. We request silence during the ceremony. I think you'll find it quite fascinating. Impressive. With that, the group visits the Tomb of the Unknown. They watch as the soldier guarding the tomb marches back and forth on the black mat behind it.
At the top of the hour, the club witnesses the changing of the guard. They see two new soldiers meet the current guard at the center of the mat. The commanding officer tells the guard to pass his orders. Soon, the new guard steps onto the black mat and begins to march back and forth behind the tomb, rifle in hand, while the other two soldiers march away. Mr. Hanson and his class quietly leave the area and begin to explore the rest of the Arlington Nation Cemetery.
Wow, that's amazing. I think I'd like to guard the tomb someday. It is a great honor to be chosen to be part of the elite regiment. Did you know that someone is guarding this tomb 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, no matter the weather?
I remember hearing about a major blizzard in Washington, D.C. last year. You mean that there was even a guard here marching during that famous blizzard?
Yes, they are very dedicated, aren't they? Tyler, do you still think you'd like to guard the tomb? Yes, Mr. Hanson, I think I would. Good for you. You can make that your goal. I know that there are other requirements to be chosen for this honor. Perhaps you will want to research this more when we get back to school next week.
Late in the afternoon, they exit the Arlington National Cemetery grounds and head toward their next destination. Late in the afternoon, they exit the Arlington National Cemetery grounds and they head towards their next destination.
I know where we're going next. We're going to see the Iwo Jima Memorial.
Wow, I can't wait to see that one. That looks so cool.
Mr. Hampson's class walks toward the memorial. The closer they get to it, the more massive and impressive it becomes to each student. Soon they arrive where Petty, Officer Lane, and Staff Sergeant Fry are waiting to greet them.
Good afternoon. You must be Mr. Hanson's class from the Midwest.
We are. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I am Staff Sergeant Hillary Fry, and I'm joined today by Petty Officer Truman Lane. How have you enjoyed your day so far?
It's been incredible. So neat to see all the memorials dedicated to our armed forces.
I agree. It's been neat. It's also been sort of sad.
Do you mind sharing why it's a bit sad?
Well, I can't help but think about the fact that my grandpa could have been one of the soldiers killed in the war. If that had happened, I would have never gotten to know him.
I feel sad because I think of all the people who have died and never had a chance to have families and live the rest of their lives.
And I think of the families that had to deal with the death of a loved one. I know how hard it was for my family when my aunt died last year.
I've thought about that too. These memorial and grave sites mean something big to a lot of people.
I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about these things. These memorials are so much more to people than huge statues and structures. These memorials represent much bigger things like freedom, and bravery, and sacrifice,
And commitment.
all very important ideals. Wouldn't you agree?
I think it's important to consider the sacrifices that the families of our military are required to make for our country. Day in and day out, they are called to sacrifice time with their loved ones who are sent faraway places. Some, of course, are called more significant sacrifice when their loved ones die.
It's like one of those F-words is granted at the Korean War Memorial. Freedom is not free.
So true. Okay, let's talk about the memorial that stands before you right now. Most people who visit refer to this as the Iwo Jima Memorial. But does anybody know its official name?
I know this. This is Marion Corps Memorial.
You are correct. How many of you know it is based on a photo?
The original photograph is taken and associated by photographer named Joe Rosenfeld at Iwo Jima on February 23rd, 1945.
As you can see, it depicts Marines proudly and forcefully planted the American flag into the soil of South Pacific, signifying the conclusion of American campaign there during World War II.
We invited you to walk around slowly and see it from all angles. I find myself truly amazed when I do that. Mr. Hampson and his students do just that. The events of the day have left everyone feeling unsettled. At dinner a short while later, they agree that it's been a wonderful day but also a somber day.
Students, we have one more memorial to visit today. This stop was not on the schedule set home to your hands, but the Colonel Summers from Arlington National Cemetery was so impressed with our group that he invited us to.
Mr. Hansen and his students again board the bus, not knowing where they are going.
Mr. Smith, won't you at least give us a hint as where we are going?
No. Please? Not a chance. I'm not going to risk getting an Army colonel mad at me for spilling the beans. I'm no fool.
Come on, kids, just sit back, enjoy the ride, and let Mr. Smith focus on our business.
Soon the bus slows as they approach the massive structure with 5 sides.
We're going to the Pentagon? OMG!
Yep, that's where I was directed to deliver you.
Outside the bus, they see a man in a wheelchair and a woman standing beside him. Everyone can see that the man is missing a leg. Good evening. I was told that I will be meeting an impressive group of students here this evening. I am retired Private Steve Rodgers, and I am a veteran. I am joined this evening by my wife of 5 years, Robin.
Wow, it's really nice of you to spend your evening meeting with us.
Robin and I volunteer here a few evenings a month. We enjoy meeting groups like yours.
You volunteer at the Pentagon?
Oh, I forgot. You don't know anything about your visit here this evening, do you?
No, we don't. No one will tell us anything.
How many of you have heard of 9/11? Does everyone know what happened here on September 11, 2001?
Yes, we have all learned about the day in history. We know that two airplanes slammed into the World Trade Center in New York City, killing thousands of people.
Who can tell me what happened in rural Pennsylvania on 9/11?
I can. That's where an airplane crashed and everyone on board died. The brave passengers on the flight were able to stop the terrorists who had hijacked the plane from flying into the White House.
Good job. And what about here? Who knows what happened here at the Pentagon?
I do. A plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon that same morning.
You are right. 184 lives were lost in the attack on the Pentagon. That number includes both people inside the Pentagon as well as those on flight. How many of you knew that there was a national 9/11 Pentagon Memorial?
What you will see at this memorial are 184 benches engraved with a single name. Each bench honors one individual who died in the attack. Each bench is also illuminated and arranged according to the victim's age.
I also ask you to think about the millions of people over the centuries who have risked their lives and, in some cases, sacrificed their lives for the freedoms that you enjoy in this great nation today, sir. May I ask you, are you a veteran?
Yes, sir, I am. I served the United States Marine Corps for 25 years. During that time, I was stationed overseas for a total of 5 years. I saw combat in the Gulf War in 1991. Yes, sir, I am proud to say that I'm a veteran.
I salute you, sir.
And I salute you as well. Do I assume correctly that you are in a wheelchair because you were injured in combat?
Yes, I lost my leg 2 years ago when the tank I was riding in was hit by a roadside bomb while on patrol in Afghanistan. Students, will you make a pledge to me today? Okay, I trust that you will keep your word. I ask you to pledge in your hearts when Veterans Day Memorial arrive on this calendar each year. You will at least take a few moments to think about freedoms you enjoy and express your gratitude to our veterans by doing something kind for a person. No strings attached. Will you pledge that in your hearts right now?
Mr. Hanston and his students were truly moved by their experience visiting the national monuments and memorials in our nation's capital. The day lives on in their memories, and every Veterans Day and Memorial Day, they remember the pledge they made to Private Rogers.
They are truly thankful for the sacrifices made by American servicemen and women and their families to protect our freedoms as men.